So.
All right, hopefully you guys can see my screen. All good? Colibri, that's what it's called for transcriptions. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. I am excited to have us have our third week. Thank you again so much for ending a little bit early last week. I realized as I'm looking through our activities today, some of the stuff should probably have gone in last week, but that's okay. We'll get through it, and I think it'll be wonderful. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask them as we're going. If you can't talk or you can't share your video, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we'll highlight it when we get to it. Okay, so far we have talked about, let me get to my other screen. We've talked about preparing to be an entrepreneur. We have started to understand the rules and regulations of operating a home kitchen business, whether that is a micro enterprise home kitchen or a cottage food business. We've started talking about our unique value and our target customer. And today we're going to talk a little bit about valuing and marketing of products, but also about some of the other key activities and key relationships that we need. So those are also pieces of our marketing plan, but I want to just separate those out specifically. There was a couple of questions 2 weeks ago about kind of combining a home kitchen business with food made in a commercial kitchen. And I talked to SMC Health, and so I assume that this is probably the same for most people or most health departments. But the takeaway is keep your cottage food business here and your work out of the commercial kitchen here. You can't mix them. So if you want to make cupcakes at home and then take them to the commercial kitchen to frost, because you want to use non-buttercream frosting, just make them at the commercial kitchen, right? Like your home business should be your home business, and your outside of home business should be outside of home business. So just like Crystal separates her Miko and her chef, you're going to do the same thing. Okay, so that is really important, and I just wanted to follow up on that because I did say that I would call. All right. So yeah, the 3-week course will be offered again, but right now the recordings are going to be available. No worries if you can't share. I will be happy to hear from you or hear from you in chat. Okay, so without further ado, as I said, we're going to be talking a little bit about reaching your target audience. So last week we were talking about that ideal customer, that person that we want to sell to the most. And I told you that your homework should be really writing details about them if you have more. And I hope that you did that. We're probably not going to share that today because I think we had quite a bit of sharing on that topic, particularly last week. But if you want to talk with me about it afterwards, that's absolutely great. So when we talk about reaching our target audience, right, we have that person in mind, that buyer persona that we started with last week. And from there, we build our marketing plan, right? When you have a marketing plan, this is like the 7 pieces of your marketing plan. It's your organizational background and your mission and vision, which we didn't do in this class, but we will do in business prep. So if you are interested in really building out your plan for your business, I really encourage you to take business prep with Renaissance. We have cohorts starting at the Women's Business Center in February and in San Mateo County in March. We do this customer analysis and target audience. So you've started doing that. The competitor analysis and unique value proposition. So we talked about a little bit of that. Today, we'll talk a little bit about your promotional plan, your conversion and referral strategy, and we will not talk about joint ventures and partnerships, although I think it's also important that you start thinking about those things. All right, so this marketing plan is almost as long as your business plan, right? I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it will help you stay organized and help you organize all of those pieces that need to be part of what you're doing. I recently did a sort of marketing plan for the North County Business Resource Center, which is where I work. And it was super enlightening because I had been spending quite a bit of time on social media, and that wasn't really where my customers were. And when I started focusing on building relationships, I ended up getting a lot more referrals. And I thought that was really interesting, the shift in mindset and the shift in approach. And that's something that may really help you too. So in our business prep class, you spend 2 weeks developing this out. So I do recommend that. So when we talk about your promotional plan, this is okay. I have a product. How am I going to sell it? How am I going to get that from my kitchen or my commercial kitchen, right? Depending on what you end up selling, into the hands of my customer. How am I going to let them know, right? We talked about awareness, we talked about evaluation, delivery. How do I help them know what I offer and make them aware? And we talked about events, which is absolutely possible if you are a cottage food business. It is not possible as a Miko, right? Because you have to sell out of your house as a Miko. Um, your social media advertisement, right? This is part of your digital marketing plan, which is sort of like a subset of your marketing plan. You might have blogger or vlogger partnerships. There are a ton of Bay Area foodie, like Instagram accounts, videos of people trying food. I enjoy watching them because it's cool to have people evaluate your food, right? And that's that piece of evaluation when we go back to that channel, right? How are people evaluating my product? You might have flyers, right? We'll talk a little bit about flyers today and like using design to attract people. But then you still need to think about where you're going to put the flyers, right? So it is part of your promotional plan, but it's not just creating a flyer and having it. That's not going to be enough. Affiliate programs. So this might be if you buy somewhere, you get some points and then you get something else. Right now, there's this new app in San Mateo County called Choose Local. San Mateo County. I really recommend it if you are a San Mateo County person. It is meant to support local San Mateo County businesses. And if you ultimately decide to take credit cards, you can be on this app as well. So the most important thing is that the person takes credit cards because that's how they see that you bought it and you get points. But it's a really great way of supporting business and is a really great example of an affiliate program. You can also have coupons. I mean, like, okay, coupon, like that's like my generation, my, crazy coupon cutters and like my mom, but discounts or other ways of promoting it. So I think that, this promotional plan can be really extensive. You can spend a lot of time on it. It is something that is also fairly easy to delegate if you don't want to spend time on it, as long as the other person that you're working with understands your vision. And I'll give you an example of what it can look like. All right, so here's an example promotional plan for like 3 different things. All right, 3 different products. And so you can see that we are talking about different target audience. So our target audience is our buyer persona who frequents Facebook. All right, and we have decided that this buyer persona uses Facebook, and we want to target them. And our promotion name is 12 days of sales. Let's say it's before Christmas, or let's say, we want to do something special between Groundhog Day and Valentine's Day. All right, the call to action is buy a product. So buy this and get X% off on this day. Join us as we celebrate the holiday season with 12 days of sales. You'll need your graphic or your content, and then notes for your own self about when it should launch, where you're going to launch it, and how you're going to launch it, right? If you have a gym, right? What's your call to action? We want you to sign up. Maybe the call to action is have a consultation. Maybe the call to action is a free, what is it? The first session free, right? Maybe your call to action is a sample sale, right? Like you get, a little piece of everything for like $5, and it's like mini cupcakes so you can try all the flavors, and then you do it, right? You need some flyers. Are you going to post it around the neighborhood? What does that mean? Are you going to post it on the lamp post for people who are walking by? Is that going to be something that goes in people's mailboxes? Do you really want to walk around and put stuff in people's mailboxes? I've done it. It's a little bit awkward, People have those ring things now, to like monitor who comes to their front door. And you're like, go and you like put some stuff in the mailbox and you're like, oh, I feel a little weird. All right. You may put it on your website. All right. These are just examples, right? And so when you have a Miko, you have to be really specific about how you advertise, because you're not allowed to advertise on your house itself, right? You can't put anything in the window. You can't put a logo on the door. You can't put a sign out front. So how are people going to know, right? You need to think of, how am I going to reach that target customer? For cottage food, it can be a little bit easier because you can go to farmers markets, give samples. You can run things through Instagram. Both of them can use social media in order to advertise. But again, you have to like really figure out how to build out that social media following. So I want you to think about your buyer from last week, right? Your buyer persona from last week. If you don't have it, that's okay. You can just think about what an interesting promotion might be for your business. All right. I want you to think of one dish or product that you sell or you want to sell, and keep that buyer persona in your mind, and think about how you might create a promotion in order to do it, in order to sell it. Okay. So just spend, let's say, 3 minutes thinking about who's your target audience, what are you going to name the promotion, what's your call to action, right? It doesn't have to be buy a product. The call to action can be like or share. The call to action can be come visit us. The call to action can be tell a friend, right? It doesn't have to be buy a product. What's your key message? What kind of graphic or content do you need? What kind of things that you just need to make sure that you make a note about, right? So take a couple minutes. All right, I want to just share one person that I have followed. She is in South San Francisco, And she has this really great juicing business. Like she just decided that's what she was going to start during the pandemic. And I really enjoy her posts because I think she does a really nice job of making them exciting, right? So this is maybe not her best post, but everything has her themes, right? So she's got, how much it costs, what its typical value is, that it's a subscription. So she's really advertising a lot here. She has, in her stories, she'll post things to like really encourage you to do it. There's only 80, there's only an extra bundle, right? And so she's thinking about this, like, ooh, there's an extra set available. And then she makes you feel like you missed out, right? Like the people, if you didn't grab it, you didn't grab it right away. You're like, oh shoot, I wish I had grabbed that. Oh, I didn't have time. And then she'll come back and say, ooh, my most popular bundle is this. Hey, just so you remember, this exists. Right. So I think she does a really nice job with Instagram in talking about what she does. Her she's juicing Verde. I'll just put it in here. And she's very good about keeping a theme. So a couple of her stuff lately is not as on theme as it used to be, but like, it's always about keeping healthy. She frequently uses the Monstera to show you like, this is who I am, right? And so she's also building her brand along with building these promotions. And so the promotions are always within her brand and they're always within how you think about that. So we will have another like marketing class coming up soon. Actually, if you don't end up taking business prep, but like that's really focused on marketing and saying, okay, how do I take these ideas for these promotions and make them something that is actionable? What is my call to action? What kind of content do I need? When am I going to launch this? What other things should I mention? Right? Because I think the important thing to know is that you have to keep reminding people about stuff. Does anybody want to share a possible promotion?
Yes, hello.
Yeah,
I'd like to share a
great.
promotion. This is Steve Cortez in Redwood City. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So basically, what I'm looking at is I do some work with the school district,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm looking for the busy mom market. The busy mom market. It would be early dinners for mothers with elementary age children,
Mm.
2 to 4 children, family
Mm-hmm.
meals, pre-prepared. They can pick it up or it can be delivered within our area code here, in our local domain here
Mm-hmm.
in Redwood City, Menlo Park, San Carlos area. Food will be prepared at home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have we've created a commercial kitchen at home for Zoom classes. So we have a fairly decent setup for food production here. And the primary marketing strategy would probably be directly to moms via things such as neighborhood emails, local newsletters from the schools, next door. You're probably familiar with next door and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the primary focus. I would not try to market too much beyond my geographic area
Mm-hmm.
for logistical reasons. Probably would not focus as much on social media, other than probably have an email user group or email order for an online order type facility, or let them know
Mm-hmm.
what we're making. So basically, what I'm looking at, to make it real quickly and short, is having a set menu for certain days during the week, and they
Mm-hmm.
can pick or choose whether they want to go with that or not. So it's not really practical to make 5 different things in one day, but rather
Right.
next week we're having spaghetti and meatballs, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be it. I mean, that's what we're offering on Wednesday, and just, if you want it, please place an order. So
Yeah.
that's it.
So that's a lot of different promotions that you can do. Okay. I'm hearing a lot of different ways for this full promotional plan, and I think it's great. You'll need to like break them down a little bit, right? If you have a newsletter, right? The
Right.
newsletter is going to people at a particular school. So it's like, okay, I want you to, join Chef Steve Tuesdays. The call to action is order tomorrow for pickup on Friday, right? Your
Correct.
key message is healthy food that you don't have to prepare, something like that, right? And so really thinking
Correct.
through the specifics of each one of those, and coming up with a way of calling to action on each one of those, right?
Correct.
Because the other thing, I liked the idea that you have this like YouTube kitchen, right? Because that could also be a piece like, hey, entertain your kids, have them watch how to make something,
Sure.
and then they can help mom, warm it up, and they can eat what you just made in this YouTube video. So that could be a really cool thing, like log on to watch. So just really thinking about those call to actions on the specific pieces.
Great idea.
That's a great question, Jocelyn. She is trying to register as a Miko. And so that is what she's trying to do. She's just starting her business, so she's working on that. Let's move on. I did want to point out, so the next thing that I have to talk about in this is using Canva for your business. So a lot of people are familiar with Canva. I'm not going to go into it deeply because we have a Canva class coming up next week, which I will just put in the chat real quick. But I do want to just share with you that there's a lot of different things that you can do with Canva to make your design look good, right? You don't have to do everything like on your phone. You can do it on your phone. You can do icon templates, you can do shop covers, you can do social media posts. I have Etsy here, but like, I just want to show you that if you are creating like an Instagram post, you can go to the template and get a post, right? Oh, now my internet is not working. There's a lot of free ones that you can use, but you can also pay, I think it's like basically $10 a month, like $120 a year. So if you want to have something like Instagram posts, you can say, oh, I want to do something with food, right? Then you can have really nice pictures of what you're offering. You can, here's a good promotion example. What I like about this is that it makes it really easy for you to use your product and really integrate your product into these. It's really easy to personalize and use your brand colors, which is a separate conversation, but I think is an important one, right? That if I were making something for Renaissance, I wouldn't ever use this purple, right? It's not Renaissance colors, like not even a little bit, right? But you can go in and change this to your brand colors, right? Renaissance has its own brand kit, so we could just put like orange, right? We can put our goldenrod. You can change out the photo, right? You can, and what's cool about this, I'll just show you an example. If you choose like a photo of, say we want to use this, right? If I don't want that brown background, I can edit it with this background remover, right? And so if you have a piece of food, as long as you can have it on a sort of blank background, then it's usually pretty typically easy to remove that background for any sort of your social media posts. And as I said, we've got a class on Canva that's coming up, so I don't want to go too deeply into this, but just to show you that it is possible to make and commercialize and personalize what you need without having to really be a graphic design master. All right, so, oh, here's a cake. You can put the cake in here and then, remove the background. You can animate it and make it a little reel so that it grabs people's eyes a little bit more. So lots of stuff that you can do with Canva. There are other tools as well. So I'm not saying that Canva is the only one. My colleague just sent me an email yesterday saying that he prefers Poster My Wall, which I'd never heard of. A friend of mine just joined Pictochart. Pictograph, Pictochart. These are also options that you can do that Ooh, this is some nice comments in here. I love Canva. You can even create a website on Canva and connect a domain or have Canva hosted for free. Yep, you can also integrate Canva with your social media, so you don't have to download it, upload it. You can just like have it post automatically. Ooh, yeah, and if you make it a business expense, then you can write it off at the end of the year. So good comments. All right, so just wanted to point out that there's a lot of things you can do so that you follow your brand and really make that stand out with what you want to do. All right, so as I said, these are some things that you can do. You can create a logo, you can use a template, you decide on a color palette, you decide on a style, and then the takeaway is really just be consistent. Just be consistent. All right, so let's go to the next part of that marketing plan, which is this conversion and referral strategy. All right, how do you get current customers to refer new customers? And then how will you treat them? And that then can be both referring to the current customer as well as the new customer. All right. You also want to ask, where am I finding these referrals and conversions? Am I doing it on farmers markets? Am I doing it on Instagram or Google search or Yelp or word of mouth? Right? All of those are going to take a slightly different referral strategy, because you can't just say, hey, friend, tell your friend about our thing and you both get 10% off. Because then you have to have a way of saying that this referral came from this person and this is the person who was referred, right? So if you have any sort of online ordering, you might need to use a code, right? That's why they always use those codes like take 20 or friend discount. That way you can track who is coming to you and from where they are coming. Yelp has a reservation system. I don't know that it would work for Miko's, although it could, right? Because the whole idea is that it's a restaurant in your house. So why not, right? If you have a cottage food business, I also think you can use Yelp, right? This is also part of that awareness and evaluation. And so maybe if you have a referral, it's like, hey, if you loved us, give us a great review. And if we see it, next time you get 5% off or something like that. One of the things that I think is really important is that you don't want to over discount your product, right? And we'll talk about valuing your product in just a minute. You don't want to over discount it. You do not want to under discount it either, right? If people don't ever feel like there's some exciting thing that they can get, sometimes they just like aren't very motivated to tell people like they love their product and they eat it, right? But if you, for example, at my old business, we had a punch card that for every 50 whatever's you spent, so the currency was zloty, but for every 50 zloty you spent, you got a stamp. And when you got 10 stamps, then you would get 10% off your next meal. That encourages repeat customers, right? It encourages people to refer. And it doesn't matter. What if that person wants to order 100 things? Cool. That means the next time they get like 10% off every single time, right? So you can do this in a way that encourages people to refer. And you just need to think about what your strategy is for that, right? So as you're thinking about your product, where do I want them to come from, right? Where do I want that to be? And how am I going to reward people for sharing that information, right? Maybe you do a co-promotion, right? Like, hey, me and my friend, who is Miko, I have a cottage food business. If you buy this Miko product, then, you get a free cupcake from me. And then next time, if you buy it, then you get 10% off and you buy 10 cupcakes from me or a dozen cupcakes, right? So always be thinking about where do you want the person to come from? And how are you going to say thank you for referring? We have had people in the past be like, I can't afford to give a 10% discount. Well, In that case, what I would say is raise your prices by 10% so that you can reward the people who come regularly, right? Because it costs you a lot of money to get customers. It costs a lot of time to get customers, and time is money, right? So if you're only going to have a customer who tries you once, what's the loss in having it be 10% more and you getting 10% more? And then your regular customer getting some 10% discounts, that's great, right? They're coming every week. All right. So really thinking about that. So writing down for you, where do I want my customer to come from? Where do I want my referral to come from? And how am I going to say thank you for doing that? All right. The next pieces are kind of about valuing your product. But before we get to the how much am I going to charge, right? Because I'm talking in really abstract numbers right now, 10% more. We need to think about all the things that go into making the product. Okay. And so what I want you to first think about is the key resources that you need to run your business, because these are all business costs too, right? If you have to buy a computer, that's a business cost. If you need to hire somebody, business cost. If you need to have a consultation with somebody, that's a business cost. If you decide to brand yourself, that's a business cost. If you need to take out money, if you get a loan, that is also a business cost. Like you get a chunk of money, but you're also paying 5% every month. That is a cost. All right. So as you think about your business, I want you to write these down for sure right now. What do you need to run your business? And now we're talking about a food business. So that means you're going to need kitchen products as well, right? You're going to need a mixer. You're going to need good pans. You're going to need a system for disinfecting your products. You're going to need, different utensils than you would use for your house, right? And they do want you to keep those utensils separate. So you're going to have a second set of utensils just for your business. You may decide my kitchen and my regular refrigerator isn't big enough. I need to have a separate refrigerator for my business food. If that's the case, you're going to have to buy a refrigerator. All right. So, it's not just the food. It's not just this, the raw material food that you're buying that is your base product. It's all these things. All right. So I want you to make a list. I bet you can come up with 10 really fast. All right. And I want you to at least write down 10 things that you know that you need to buy or get for your business. And if you already have them, that's okay too. You still need to be thinking about how they depreciate in value and that you may need to replace them. What does it look like when your blender breaks? How am I going to afford another one, right? If I'm not charging enough, I'm not going to be able to do that. So write down all the things that you need to run your business. couple other things I was sitting here and thinking, because I didn't write these down. This is just kind of like, thinking out loud. Packaging, right? You're gonna need packaging for your food. How much does that cost? If you're gonna put stickers on something with your brand name, how much does that cost? If you get specialty bags, how much does that cost? When I started my business, I went bare bones and I got a stamp and I stamped every single bag. That takes time. So it is a time versus money trade-off. The bags that were not stamped, or the bags that were like pre-stamped or pre-logo made, those were expensive. I mean, like significantly more expensive. Maybe you have a really good product, and that's really important to you, is to have a branded bag. That's fine. You just need to make sure that that's accounted for in your cost. Does anybody want to share their thoughts? Because you might spark some conversation between others who hadn't thought about those things. Yeah, Crystal, unmute.
Mine is Crow Cake, which is a cupcake business, and I find surprises all over the place that I never account for. So as I've been baking, I'm kind of like, oh crap. But like the stuff I need for my office is like just in with my computer, the tech stuff that I have to have, and all of the business accounts that I have no idea how to use. A Cricut is a really cool thing for stenciling, but it's very expensive, and then upkeep. A printer, and then all of the equipment for the kitchen, because I feel like I'm still like gathering all of my equipment. So when someone says, oh, can you do this? And I realize I don't have something, sometimes I'll include it in that person's cost. And then now I have that piece of equipment. And then I can kind of spread that out evenly. But cleaning projects, laundry, storage area, like my kitchen's not that big. Like, where am I going to keep 50 pounds of flour?
Yeah.
And do I buy 50 pounds of flour, or do I just buy 10? That varying degree.
Right. And especially when you know that the 10 per unit costs more, but at the same time, you're right, it costs money to store, right?
Yeah.
Do I need a 2-bedroom apartment in order to like have my business, so that my second bedroom is my storage space, right?
Yeah, and so those are just labels, packaging, because like you were talking about the labels and packaging, it's like, what is a stamp from a stamp pad going to be enough, or so but yeah, and then like, but the laundry was always a surprise to me.
That's a very good point. When I started my business, I also did my own laundry, and marginal cost of water maybe isn't that much, right? But I could never discount it because I was just doing it. But I spent a lot of time doing it, right? It's again, money is not just money. Money is also time that you're spending doing this thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that you mentioned that I was just thinking about was we have a client who started an ice cream business, and she started selling wholesale, and she also sells at farmers markets. You know what she had to buy? Like 4 different coolers so that she could keep those cold. And I thought, oh yeah, you would need that, right? In order to make your product. Or for you, right? I know you said you make wedding cakes too. That's probably in your commercial kitchen, but how are you going to transport that wedding cake? What if it's really tall? I have a Scion IQ, right? Like I couldn't fit that in my car.
I had a Hyundai Elantra for 12 years, and I actually delivered wedding cakes, and I would just put them on my lap and carry them unboxed because I had nothing else. And now I have a Toyota Sienna, and everyone's like, you're single, why do you have this? And I'm like, you wait, you'll see it.
Yeah. And that was the problem that Stephanie had too, was fitting. So, cause she bought like 4 coolers, and she was like, wait a minute, I have a Honda Civic. Like, I'm not gonna be able to fit this in my car. I'm gonna have to make 2 trips anyway. Right. And then the car, you're driving it from a place to a place. That is also a cost. You're spending, again, your time if you want to do delivery, and also gas. I mean, gas in California is crazy expensive. All right.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That sparked some good thoughts. In the chat, we've got mixer, blender, toaster oven, utensils, pans, pots, cupcake molds, boxes. Yeah, all of those molds. And if you're going to do specialty decorating, you know, all of that is a piece too. Wow.
My site for my business right now is just from home. Jocelyn asked that in the questions.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was a website. Maybe you have a website.
And I'm working on a website and Instagram thing, but it's all right now word of mouth. And I work with some artists and a storyteller unit, so I have access to very large crowds. And so to maximize on that, so I'll do a special event for my friend who does shows for 400 people, and I'll actually bring cupcakes. And at this time, I've been giving them out, but as it gets bigger and bigger, it's I'll bring a cake for the person who's doing the show, and then sell cupcakes in the back. And
great idea.
Yeah, and they're themed because it's kind of more of an adult theme. So there's alcohol involved, and of course, like gluten. It's all the specialty needs, so everybody can be involved. It's an all-inclusive cupcake business.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
yeah. Yeah, and again, like accounting for your time and those things is also really important, right? If you do, these events are great for building awareness, they're great for building evaluation, they're great for building those current referrals. But when you spend 6 hours making cupcakes and then 4 hours selling them, right? That's a long day too, right?
Yeah.
How much are you paying yourself?
My friend who has his own business and food truck and stuff, I work with him a lot, and he is always like, now, Crystal, you're dialing down to get your value for what the time you put into it. Because I love to give little details and I love to like get individually, but I never charge for that. I never account for my time. And then at the end, I'm like, why am I so tired? Why can't I? Or why didn't I do this with the 6 other people who were like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? And it's like, so I still want to give that attention, but at the same time, I cannot kill myself with that one person and then I forget about all those other people. So.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm also thinking back to Chef Steve, right? He's talking about his YouTube channel. That's awesome, right? That's also a really good way. But, you know, keeping your subscription on YouTube, any sort of video editing apps, if you're going to be doing that, if you have to get the ring light and the good camera post, you know what I mean? All that is stuff too, right? If you want to pay for a food photographer, because you need really good examples of your cakes, right? Like Canva can help you design nice stuff. It does not account for ultimately bad photos. So like, again, how are you going to do that? So all of these things I think are really important to come to and say, okay, what do I need? And just spend some time working on it. The second thing that I want you to spend some time thinking about is the activities, right? These are also things that we end up not accounting for when we start our business. So we go back to our unique value proposition. We go back to our key resources when we just talked about what we need, right? What do I do to make my business? Because it's for sure not just cooking, right? If I'm spending money on the production of the product, that is time that I'm spending cooking, right? But if I need to have an assistant to help me in the kitchen, I'm going to have to interview that person. I have to write the job description. What if they don't turn out good? I have to train them. What if they leave? Right? Marketing and sales. We've talked about all of these things that we're going to be doing for marketing and sales. That's a lot of time. If you decide to have a website or build a platform, that's time. Maintaining it, making sure that it's up to date, problem solving, client talking, right? Just talking to clients. Maybe they approach you with a specialty product that they want, and you have to like design it or think about it, give them some options, price it out. All of those things are your key activities. So besides production, and I say production like it's only one thing, you need to shop, you need to clean, all of those pieces are pieces. So again, I want you to write down the first 10 things that come to mind that you know that you need to do for your business. or already are doing for your business. And then we'll share out a little bit to find out maybe there's something I'm not thinking about. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I always find that I got into like holes of marketing and sales, you know, so you can spend a really long time on like one flyer and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that wasn't a great use of my time. I don't know, how can I be more effective and more efficient? Besides these key activities, who came up with something else? Anything else that you were thinking about? I'm thinking again, back to Chef Steve, you've got your YouTube channel, even though that's kind of marketing and sales, there's a lot of work that goes along with that too.
Well,
And I have
real quickly, one of the inputs I could offer is coming up with a comprehensive menu design. And by comprehensive, I don't mean like I don't mean like extensive, but more like detailed, so people know what they're actually purchasing. Inclusion of dietary and nutrition information as much as possible, as much as you could do that as much as possible. I did some work for one of the hospitals, and for the meals I prepared, they required, detailed nutrition information. So your customers may want that if that's a request, and just have that in the back of your mind, you have that prepared. The other thing that we talked about earlier was packaging. One of the innovative things I've seen in the past was to offer these semi-permanent containers, and you give them to repeat customers, and they bring the containers back. That would save you money in the long run, and also try to maintain them as a repeat customer. And like something like Starbucks does with their permanent coffee cup type thing, something such as that. So those are two inputs I have.
Those are great. And also I was thinking, when you talk about that, key activities might be certifications, right? If you're really committed to being organic, like maybe you get the organic certification. That's going to take time. It's going to take money. the menu design is really important too. And it also made me think about all the time that people spend doing business stuff. Okay. And I'm talking like getting your health permit, you know, because you got to get your kitchen inspected. You have to pay for those fees too. So I was even thinking that's another fee that you have to pay too. You know, filing your sales tax, making sure that you have all of your accounts done, right? I mean, filing taxes on a quarterly basis is a big piece too. So I like the menu design, absolutely. I love the semi-permanent containers. This is really popular in Poland, actually. They have a very like strong zero waste culture. But you know, you could get green business certified if you really use that as a basis of your business. That's pretty cool too. Also can be a really cool, unique value proposition, right?
Hi, this is Christy. I have something that I would like to add.
Yeah.
I think that when starting a business, especially when you're young as a business, and even when you're fully in full swing, it's important to have self-care practices and kind of carved out in the time that you spend working on your business. Because owning and running a business is very stressful. It's a 7-day, all guts, no glory kind of thing. So I want to say self-care is really important. What I wrote down is like meditating for me, is really the practice that I use primarily. And I came to that via cleaning. Because cleaning, and then I was like, oh, but I need to also spiritually cleanse. So thank you.
Oh, I think that's great. Yeah, when I had my business, that was usually my walk home, right? I would like walk home and just turn my brain off for 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden I'd be home and I was like, oh, how did I get here? Right? But that is important, and actually just made me think of some other like key resources. Right? You might need some specialty like clothing for your business, right? You might want to invest in those really good shoes because you're going to be standing for a long time. You know, all of these things, you're right. It's how do I balance my life with my work? Ooh. Yeah, the safe serve, right? Make samples, create a logo.
It's what you just said, Amanda, was one of the reasons why I really struggle right now, because while doing all of these classes through Renaissance, I'm really having a hard time going to work in my house. I realized that one of my, like, even no matter how I reorganize my kitchen, I'm still not at work, because when I go to work, I literally put my hair up, I wear a uniform, I'm in the mindset that here I am, I'm doing this. And so either I have to figure out how to create that space in my house, or just accept the fact that I can't and go find a commercial kitchen that works for me, because that's like I'm having a really hard time. Even those small orders that I have been making, I'm just like, I'll wait till the last minute, I'll turn on the TV, all of a sudden, you know, it's just a strange thing for me, because when I'm at my job, there's a process for everything. When I have to go to the bathroom, I have to take my uniform off, I have to take my apron off, I have to wash my hands, you know, 3 times. But when I'm at home, there's less doorways and there's less like things. So I have to remember all of those processes, but it's as important, if not more important, when I'm home. And I have a hard time doing that. And so I'm realizing that as I'm going through all these courses, that I don't like it at home. So.
Which it's also really an important realization, right? It's saying, okay, actually, I need something that's separate, or I need to make sure that I have some kind of physical separation, right? That you know, this part of the kitchen is the kitchen that I'm working in, or you make a sign for yourself that says, remember, like all the things that you're supposed to remember in the commercial kitchen. This is what I'm doing. But that's a great point.
The irony of this also is that I'm realizing that I do not want to run a business. I want to bake. So now I have to figure out do I just go bake for someone, or I have to figure out that balance of how do I bake for myself without being overwhelmed with the business end of it? Because I feel like I've been caught up. I mean, this has been a dream for 15 years. Like, no one's surprised that I'm opening crow cakes, but in my brain, I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
And
I get
you might find that you need a partner, and that's a key activity too, is finding a trusted partner of somebody who does like the business side of things and loves advertising cupcakes, but is just not good in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, I do need that. And then I'm realizing that. And so I'm also realizing that it's not a failure on my part to just acknowledge and say out loud that I don't want to do this. I don't want to own my own business. I do want to be my own boss, but I know what I am really good at. And it's not doing the day-to-day tasks. Like, I mean,
I don't want to call out Emily here, but I see that Emily's on here. Emily, you have a partner, and would you be interested in talking a little bit about, your decision to have a partner on that?
Yeah, I was kind of unmuting myself a few times because I've been wanting to kind of say something throughout this session. But yeah, I mean, my reason for having a partner is a little bit different. Actually, in a lot of ways, he found me. And so I'm more the food development person, which is probably what you would be interested in. That's the fun part. And then he's more, we're trying to do like heirloom fruits and stuff. So he's more the farmer guy, like he has his own farm and everything. So he's got all of that background. I wouldn't know where to start with his parts. This is probably a dream of his, and he has not been able to start it until he found me. So it was kind of a nice balance. And so I think if you can find someone, I'm not sure if there's, what maybe Amanda knows what groups, you could get active on or something to kind of find out. But it just seems like the food community is very tight, and like very open is what I mean. And so by just letting people know you have these amazing cupcakes and cakes and stuff that you do. So still have your website and still show it off, still give out samples. You'll probably get someone, who is like, I could easily sell that, or I could take you in, they sell something else, but it's a natural fit to bring in, the cake part of things. So I think, that's certainly, it's been good. It's been also a challenge too, because we're also trying to figure out how to work together. Like our schedules are totally different and how much time each of us has and that and this and that. But if you're purely the baker, that might be a bit easier to compartmentalize. So yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. What I find also is I need someone to rein me in, because my sense of adventure when it comes to food is huge. And if I could, I would put, not really, but 14 karat gold on stuff, just because that's how that customer wants to be bedazzled. And I would find a way to source that. And then I realized I have no money for groceries this week because I made that. And so I think acknowledging that also is like, because while I was talking to my friend Thomas, who owns his own food truck with his wife, they are literally in therapy right now because they work, live, and work their business partners. And he's kind of the business end and she's kind of the food creative. But, so it's just one of those of like, wow, so I feel like I've come a long way, because for the longest time, I wouldn't even start because I got so caught up. And so I'm doing exactly what you were saying, Emily, about like, I will still I go simple. I show up to the events. I, have kind of it's not a business card. Sometimes I'll just write my name on a piece of paper and be like, here, call me and then I go follow up and find that person. And then I have another order. And then it just stops because, all that. But
I think people, if there's a way, and if there's a way, like you're making all this stuff, and then if you can just make people aware, like you're kind of advertising yourself, like that you're looking for someone to partner with. you know. And I think because otherwise people aren't necessarily going to go to you because they're like, oh, well, she's got her own business, you know. So you kind of have to advertise yourself that like, hey, it's like a for sale business, right? Some of these businesses that are doing really well and you have no idea that they actually want to get out, and somehow, I guess, I don't know if they advertise in the background or whatever, and like change ownership. But you got to get yourself like exposed, you know, so that people know.
Yeah, I was also thinking, you know, since you said you have a lot of restaurant experience, and maybe to also talking to people who are front of house, right? They may be interested in the business side of things. They chose not to be cooks, right? But they still like the business.
Yes.
Then you've got, you know, schools like, you know, hotel institutes, and like, you know, like the I went to Purdue and we had like hotel and restaurant management, right?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, those can also be resources for you, because maybe those people don't necessarily want to work in a big corporate hotel chain or a big corporate restaurant chain, right? And they would be a great partner for you.
Really good idea, because right now I'm also not living, but I work with a friend of mine who she is a producer, event coordinator, a coach, storyteller. You know, she does every single thing herself, everything. And she constantly gets overwhelmed with people being like, well, why didn't you send me this? Or you said you were going to send it to me 3 weeks ago. And I'm literally working with her every day going, why don't you know, you can't do this. Why are you trying? And I'm her personal assistant. This is the funny thing. I am her personal assistant in the sense of her personal assistant. I come to her house, I walk her dog, I vacuum the floor, I'm her like cheerleader per se.
Yeah.
But on the other end of it, I don't know a damn diddly squat about tech. And so I can never move into that. So where she is at her business, it's like you need a personal assistant, a tech assistant, an event assistant, a personal assistant that knows your Instagram, your emails, your sense of personality, so then you can answer them all. And so I'm also having this amazing example to know what I cannot do. And I'm like, I love this woman. She is so amazing. And she's a great friend, but I also go, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Was
super
it
important.
Who mentioned self-care?
Christy.
That is, I don't think anyone ever teaches that anywhere. You know, you go to culinary school, you go to work. It's just do more. And then it's like, you know, there's a reason why all chefs have the reputation of doing cocaine and alcohol.
Oh, geez.
It's because that is their self-care. I mean, in the extreme
their
sense
escape, I guess. More,
yeah, I mean,
less self-carry, more escapey, but probably
no.
so.
I'm not condoning anything.
No, I
but
know.
Like when you think of chefs, when you listen to Anthony Bourdain, what do you think of?
Yeah.
It's the after party. It's the 5 hours between your end shift and the time you find to sleep before you go back to work.
Yeah.
And that's because that is what has been embedded in the chef's culture as their self-care.
Well, and that's one of the things that I kind of do like about the idea of the Mako, right? Is because they do limit you and how much you can do by limiting your gross receipts. So, you know, you're not working 7 days a week and making $50,000 a year.
Which is kind of awesome, because then you can also focus on like putting more into it without killing yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anyone, I mean, I think that's one of the few things in the pandemic that has come out as positives, is that everyone stopped. And then they looked at their wall that they had been looking at for 12 years and going, I still hate that color. Oh, guess what? I have time and I can paint it.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
no, it's true.
And I don't know. Like,
yeah, we do need to move on. So I think this is really important.
I'm ready.
But I mean, these are important thoughts. And I think, you know, when I talk about being prepared to be an entrepreneur the first week, yeah, there is this growth mindset, but there are all these other things you need to think about for yourself as well. You know, from the others who are in this chat, I'd love to have you, I mean, so Jasmine offered that she could help a little bit with some ideas, but you know, from the others, just as you're thinking about it, like, how did you find a partner, right? Jasmine, you've got this picnic business. Have you found a partner? You know, I was actually thinking about you this week, about how you were talking about all those 5 different buyer personas. And I was going to use you as an example this week, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but that you could have different packages for each one of those. That's going to be a lot of work for you. And so, you know, how do you find the person who can help you bring
I'm
that
struggling with that.
to
I'm
reality?
struggling with that right now. I've dragged in my 14-year-old kind of.
That's why there's so many family businesses, right?
Exactly.
Because
she reluctantly goes, okay, all
Mhm.
right. I'm like, what time are you out of school?
Right. And
Don't
maybe
give
there's one
me
of her classmates who would be way more eager, but then you'd have to pay her. And so then you're like, all right, well, what's my trade-off, right?
Exactly. And I drag in my husband sometimes, but you know, he's got other things going on. So that's actually something I was thinking about, because I'm going, I need someone to help me carry all this stuff. It's heavy. One wagon trip isn't going to do it. And then when I, set up my mock picnic, I realized like, okay, I still have to go back to the car and my stuff is left unattended. Somebody has to be there to watch my stuff so nobody steals it,
Yep.
And then
yeah.
that person playing with their dog in the park off leash when this park
And the dog's going to go run through the thing, right?
Exactly. That I have to, go shoo the dog away from my shears. It's like, oh, he's friendly, doesn't bite. I'm like, yeah, but I've got white shears that I don't want him stepping on.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And so,
Yeah.
it's like you're sitting there, you're like, oh, I really do need to take this more seriously, right? Asking for help is a really important part of being an entrepreneur. But it is, again, when we come back to this whole idea of like, okay, what are my key resources? What are my key activities? And I left out the third piece of this, which is the partnerships piece, which is who do I need to partner with? And what kind of work is that going to create for me? What kind of resources, right? If you decide to use an accountant, great, but that's going to be more money. You're going to still have to collect your receipts somehow, right? If you hire a person, that can be a piece. If you do these affiliate partnership programs, that's a piece. So I left that out of this conversation, but it's still a conversation that you need to think about, is like, when you do have partnerships, what does that look like? And how do you make it work for you? All right.
Amanda,
So
can I just add one quick thing? And this goes to Crystal and anyone else who's, making things that certain ingredients. Just to give everyone a heads up, you might already know just that a lot of things are in shorter supply, not just lead times, but just be careful and just be aware of that. So if there's a certain kind of flour that works for whatever it is that you're making, or just a special ingredient, just know that and decide whether you're going to need to bulk order that and figure out where to store it. Because I'm having trouble with that myself. So it's a big deal right now. So
yeah, I thank you for bringing that up. Planning for uncertainty is also a key activity, even though it doesn't seem like, how do I plan for uncertainty? But you have to have some ideas so that it doesn't just come and hit you, right? You need to have some flexibility and like, what is my plan B? What could I do? So I think that that's really important. Okay, so we talked about these key activities, we talked about these key resources, we kind of briefly touched on these key partnerships, right? Again, costs and expenses, all of those things cost something. And so making a list, again, of the top 10 costs and expenses, you can start writing down exactly how much it costs right now. Right? How much does my rent or mortgage cost? If I have to upgrade, if I need to buy a refrigerator, if I need to pay someone to do payroll, if I need to keep extra inventory, right? Yesterday started our class on financial management, and I've been reading this book called The 30-Day MBA, because like you, I had my own business, right? I don't have an MBA. And so it was really interesting, because the big takeaway from that book was cash flow is king for small business, right? So if you do have to bulk buy something, you may not be able to pay your rent this month. And what do you do in that scenario? All right. So I do want you to just spend a minute. What are the expenses you need to start up your business? What are the expenses that are your operating costs? So the regular basis. And then if you want to start writing down numbers, great. But if you don't want to worry about numbers, that's also fine. I know that we have done this a little bit in the resources, but I also want you to think about the specific costs. All right, so take a couple minutes, write down the specific costs. If you have already been buying some products, write down what that looks like too. All right, we've kind of been talking about this. So if you have one that you think that people wouldn't have thought of, I'd love to hear it. I mean, like the laundry one is a really good one from earlier. Like that's a key activity and also a cost that you wouldn't necessarily put in your, top of line thing. What do you think are some main costs that you might have? And you can split this out between things to start up versus things to keep going. And if you didn't include a salary for yourself, make sure you put that on there too.
Okay, I have one comment.
Yeah. Are you talking? Are you there? You have a comment and then there's nothing.
Hello?
Yep. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah. So I
Please.
had just one quick comment about additional costs. Is delivery, yes or no? To go with the delivery service, should we, would it be practical to pack things up and take them ourselves? I mean, that's additional time and effort, as you know.
Mhm.
But there's some pros and cons of both. Just looking for some input on that.
Yeah. Big topic, right? For the
Yeah.
hot food business,
Exactly.
you have to limit, like Crystal said in the very first week, you really need to limit your delivery area. I see people who deliver all the way up and down the peninsula for the same flat cost. And I'm like, oh, you're going from South San Francisco to Redwood
Wow,
City for the same
yes.
price as like going to Daly City? That seems not right. That's a big discussion. And I know Crystal in the first week also said that like she charges more on using the chef platform for the same food she sells from her Miko because they take 25%.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's a lot.
from your house, like if you are a Miko, you have to deliver it yourself. So what does that look like? How much do you want to charge? Do you want to do it based on,
Right.
not only time of day, right? Because you said you want to do after school, right?
Correct.
That is peak traffic time. So
Right.
you leave your house at 3:30 or 4 o'clock and you want to get anywhere, it's going to be an extra 20% longer, right?
Exactly.
So I think that those are really good things to think about. I don't have an answer for you. It's a good one to put on there.
Yeah, I've
Right.
got a question or maybe a thought there. If you're going to sell to moms, busy moms after school, since a lot of moms pick up their kids at school, are you going to be able to, let's say, park your car close to the school and then it becomes a pickup location and then you can hit 20 meals all at once?
Right.
That's a great idea.
I just kind of thought about this one, but while you're spending money on this, to make sure that you don't go into bad credit, to find yourself in a deficit where you end up with a lower credit score, and then when you do go to get that business loan, you can't have it because you maxed out all your credit cards and you're 3 months late. So
yeah, I think that's really, really critical. And I would say, since you're a business, starting to establish a separation of your business and personal accounts is also critical. So, if you do need to get, I think a DUNS number costs an initial amount, right? On a DUNS number. Do you guys know what the DUNS number is? I just learned about this. It is typically assigned to you, especially when you have a business account, because it helps you build business credit. It helps you track what this business is doing. And so, if you want to get a DUNS number, I think it is like $250. But if you're going to get business loans, it's also really important to have one, because then they can say, oh, this person has been in operation for so much time, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's one that is not on anybody's list, but can be.
EIN number is free.
Oh, that's good.
So I have an EIN number for my for a couple of my other businesses, and you could actually apply for like Office Depot credit cards with an EIN number.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and not have to use your own personal credit. You do have to guarantee it. You do have to put your social security number, with it. But if you put your EIN number, if you have an LLC, then you're able to actually start building credit that way. And if you bank with somebody like Chase, for example, my first business, they said, hey, do you want a business card? And I'm like, sure. And they gave me like $2,000 credit limit, but they want a personal guarantee. But if you show that you're being responsible and buying stuff and paying it off, then they are more likely to increase your limit because they know you have a business, you're banking with them and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that is really critical. And yeah, absolutely. And if you don't do that in the beginning, again, it's just like building your personal credit. You also have to build your business credit. That takes money. And one thing you said that I only learned recently, which I found really fascinating, is that you said you have an LLC, right? And I only learned recently that even if you have no sales in the state of California in a year, you still have to pay an $800 minimum tax for having the LLC. That's a cost that a lot of people don't account for.
What's interesting is they say that, but they tell you you don't have to pay until they send you a bill. And I don't know if it's because it's COVID, but I've never received a bill. So
I don't know, Jasmine, we might need to get you a financial consultation. Now I'm afraid that you're going to be out of compliance.
Yikes, I know, right? Well, no, it's actually, I've never received a bill. And so when I actually went through the financial, thing for Renaissance, and they're like, well, I'm like, well, do I send them money? And they're like, well, they will request it from you. And I called the state and they're like, no, we'll send you a bill. But pretty much I was told, if you're not really making money, then they're not going to, if they see you making a lot of money really quickly, they're going to immediately send you a bill for the taxes and all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. But actually, another thing that you're talking about, like, these are like hidden costs of running a business, right? If you're a sole proprietor, you end up getting taxed twice because you pay on your business revenues and then you pay on your personal revenues, which are part of your business revenues, right? That's a cost that you don't really think about until it comes, once a year, quarterly when you file your taxes. But they are important costs to account for in your business model.
And that's an important point of putting away the money instead of spending it at the time, because at the end, you're going to owe a lot of taxes. So if you don't have like a secret hidden fund, you don't have normal access, you can put it in, but you can't take it out kind of thing.
Yeah.
It surprises you at the end.
Yeah, I'm always impressed with like people's like gung-ho nature about doing stuff. We had a client contact us with for help with her sales tax remittance. Turns out she hadn't been paying sales tax at all. Like she didn't have a sales tax account. You know, it was the end of the year and they came to her and they're like, when are you gonna pay this? You've been in business. She was like, oh, how much am I supposed to charge? Wow.
Yeah, I have a friend, she's been in the business for 15 years and she's just doing her taxes. So it's a lot of,
That'd be a lot of work. You know, that's the thing. I mean, we do have free resources at Renaissance, so at least there is some place that you don't have to pay for everything. But you know, we don't do people's taxes for them, so sorry about that. But it's not one of our offers. So good. Okay. So you know, when you're thinking about your costs, and we're talking about these valuing your product, yes, you should try as much as possible to get accurate numbers, right? How does it translate into your pricing, right? So one of the things that you have to do is sum all the costs that you have in a given month, and these are both the fixed cost and the variable costs. If your fixed cost is your salary, then that's, you know, can be a fixed cost. So you say, I want to make 5,000 a month. That's your choice, right? You can do that as a fixed cost, or you can do it as a variable cost based on an hourly wage, for example, what you want to do. And then you divide by the number of units you want to sell. And you're sitting there thinking like, that looks pretty easy, right? Like that's not hard. I mean, it gets hard, right? It gets hard. And I'm just going to give you some examples. I did a super duper quickie like financial statement. Okay, this is not anything that you should try and replicate, although I will send it to you just so you can play around with it. But I said, let's say that our monthly fixed cost, I'm going to make 1,000 a month. And I'm not saying how much I'm working. Okay, I'm just saying that's how much I want to make from this. My electricity is a fixed cost. My cell phone's a fixed cost. My internet's a fixed cost. That's what I'm saying is what I need. I'm not including any of the baking products that I'd already bought, like all of the mixers and anything like that. This is what I'm saying are my fixed costs. Then we talk about our variable costs. So you've got your first meal, and that one costs you $5 to make. Your second meal, when you sum it up and you divide by how many, meals you can make for the amount of materials you got, ingredients, $5.43. Item 3 is $9. But your business model says you're just going to charge $20. Like every meal is $20. I don't think that's a great business model, but like, let's say that's what you did. All right. When you look at your margin, right, your margin is what's left after you pay the tax, after you pay for your materials. You're going to have some different margins based on how much your variable costs are. And if you have only this sort of number of sales, like these are equally popular, then you're not going to make any profit. All right. And like I said, I did this super quickie thing, and I'll just pull up my spreadsheet for it. I can understand why people don't like to do finance. It gets really complicated really fast. If you like numbers, you can work with somebody to create a spreadsheet for you to do this very easily, but you still have to do it. So can you guys see this okay? Do you want me to make it bigger? Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is what I said whoa, now I made it really small. Okay, let's say there. Okay, so let's say that is what I want to do, right? If I increase this one, people really love my item 3, and I sell 40 of those and only 10 of the other ones, because remember, I can only sell 60 meals per week. I lose even more money, right? Because my costs now are even higher and my gross revenues are the same because I'm charging the same. But This one, which is really cheap, if I sold 40 of that and only 10 of the other two, I lose less money, but I'm still losing money, right? I'm still losing money if my goal is to make $1,000 a week, right? I'm saying this is $1,000 a week because you can make $50,000 a year. That is why I chose this for this model. This is like a weekly thing. So you look at this and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna have to raise prices. I'm gonna have to raise prices. And so my price goes up to 25, 25, 25. Oh, I'm still not making a profit. Well, I would go up to 30. All right. Now my gross revenues are 1,700 per week. Can I sell that for 52 weeks? No. That puts me at gross revenues of 85,000. And with Miko, you can only sell 60,000. So there's some things you're going to have to figure out. What do I save money on? Do I only want to pay myself $500 per week? Right? Because my gross revenues are only what they are. Am I not going to make this dish because it doesn't make me any money and I'm going to invest all of that into that? Right? If I do that, then I end up making a little bit more money, right? If I change my weekly salary and I change my number of sales, if I figure out how to save money on internet, well, I get a new deal, $70 instead of $80. What I think is important about this spreadsheet is not to get into the details, because obviously your things are going to cost different amounts. But I do find that we as business owners typically nickel and dime and try to find something that is like 20 cents cheaper, right? Because you're like, oh my God, that's going to save me so much money. But in the end, it really doesn't save you that much money if it takes you a lot more time to find that item. All right. So when we come back to that conversation about wholesale versus, like, buying 10 pounds of something versus 50 pounds of something, in the beginning, it might not make a difference, right? Because cottage food is gross revenues is also only 50,000. So if you can't sell things for $30, right? And this costs you, there's no number of sales that you can control with cottage food, but it's just the gross revenues, right? If you save 20 cents on your product costs, if you're selling, $200,000 worth of product, it might start making a difference. If you're selling $50,000 worth of product, it might not make a difference. Okay, so you really need to think about how much time you spend trying to find the cheapest thing, because it may not be worth the thing that you need it to do. Okay, so this is something that is not my specialty, right? I just created this really fast, just based on like some thoughts. If you are really interested in this, we can set you up with a consultation specifically on this type of stuff. And what you need to do is come with all those costs that we talked about, all those activities, making sure that you have all those costs covered, and then work on these prices so that it covers you, right? Maybe as a cottage food or as a Miko, you want your profit to be 0. That's fine too, right? I mean, it's all your salary, right? So if I say that there's no profit, eventually that just comes from my salary, right? If I get to that, maybe that's exactly what I want, right? That my profit is $29, because I don't need it to be more than that, because I'm paying myself $1,000 a week for the weeks that I work, and I cover my costs and I pay myself. So I think that that's just really important as we're thinking about how much do you charge, is making sure you account for all those little pieces of things. Crystal mentioned that if she has to buy a specialty product, that she'll charge the first customer for that. You can totally do that. You can also amortize it over like the next customers, right? But you can also use that to then advertise to new customers, right? Maybe you don't make that customer pay for it, and then it just becomes the new thing that you do, and that goes into your marketing and sales plan, right? There's a lot of things that you can do when you're thinking about valuing a product, but I just want to make sure that you are consciously thinking about it and you're not just saying, I want to go for the lowest price, because the lowest price isn't always going to cover it. All right, we have a question about the wholesale account at Restaurant Depot. There's one in San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. And Jocelyn, I hope I'm saying your name right, is asking, how do you apply for a wholesale account? Do you have to have an EIN? I don't know the answer to that. That's a question for Chef Steve.
I think at the Restaurant Depot, I've gone in, and even there's a restaurant store over in Oakland. I can't remember the name of it, but you can just go in and tell them you work for a restaurant and they'll give you the discount.
That's nice.
I tend to use old restaurants that I've worked at, and no one's ever questioned it. No one asked me for a pay stub. It may have changed, but as far as I know, if you're buying from them, you can just tell them that you're a chef. I had to learn how to promote myself because I never called myself a chef for years. And I always had an issue with that. I never went to schools, blah, blah, blah. And so one of the people were like, you're a chef, you're doing this. Just say you're the chef. Like, you don't have to spin a story, you know?
Right, if you don't have to provide documentation, like a Costco business, I think that you have to show that you have a business. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm thinking back to, like, my business was in Europe, so it's not really helpful, but we had Macro, which is basically like Costco. You could go in and buy as an individual, or you could go in and buy as a business, and you get different prices.
For the business at Costco, you can just buy the business card and you get that deal and discount. And then you also get like advanced sales. So like with the Costco card, you don't have to have a business. You can just buy the business card and then you can write it off as a business expense. So, because I accidentally got a business card from Costco. So.
Is it more expensive on an annual basis?
It is. Okay. Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
And I think it's because they offer like different hours. Like you can go in, and before COVID, you could go in an hour before. And then also you got kind of advanced sales to certain things. Mm-hmm. And then you got a bigger refund back. It was like and then being able, like, one of the big things they promote about with the Costco card is that you're able to separate your business and your personal life, kind of thing of like, use this card for your business so you know what you bought. Don't use this card. So.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And when you are doing your finances, that is absolutely critical to be able to say, this is actually how much I spent on my business.
Yeah.
Right.
Also wanted to add to the Costco membership, because I have a business one. It's $120 a year. But the refund I received is always more than the membership, so it pays for itself. Yes. So like last year I got a check for like $200, and I'm like, okay, 120, 120, and then I can get money back, versus I think it's $50 for the regular membership, and you don't get anything back. So
wait, so tell me more about this getting money back, because I've never heard of this. This is new for me.
So you get 2% of everything you spend for that year in Costco, you earn back. So
that's super interesting.
Yeah, they keep track of it and everything. And they said if you don't earn back at least the $120, they'll give you a full refund of the business membership.
Wow.
So they really want you to use it and to get the advantage of getting 2% back. So if you're buying things in bulk, like, for my fitness business, I had to buy things in bulk. Like I had to buy, a block rocker because, I needed the music, and that's like, and it all adds up. And over the years, 2% doesn't seem like much, but when you get like I said, when you get a check for like $200, you're like, oh, okay, this is awesome. So it's worth it to me. I've kept it.
But you have to use their credit card. You have to use the Costco City card.
No,
I don't know. You don't have to. I don't have one.
Well, that's
I have both.
That's what I was told. Unless you have a credit card that has its own dollar rewards back.
They've actually removed that. Yeah, they removed that. You don't have to use the Costco credit card. They would like to sell that to you, but I just use my own card, my regular ATM card to pay for
When
it.
did you start your membership? Because I have the same criteria, which is using the city card.
Yes, I've been a member for over 20 years. I started it as a business owner.
And then what about the sorry, is it Jocelyn or?
No, there's actually two Jasmines. So
Jasmine.
yeah. So I've been a regular Costco member, and then I switched over to a business account in 2018. And before, Costco was really weird because they didn't allow you to use credit cards, but then now they allow you to use any card, debit or credit, that has a Visa logo. So you could only use Visa cards there, but you don't have to use a Citibank Visa. You can use any card.
Okay, that's really good information because that's totally new. Thank
the
you.
dollar rewards are not connected to Costco. They're connected to the very card that you're using.
Not for mine. It's Costco sends me a check in the mail, and it says cost, and I go to Costco to cash that check. So I can show up to Costco to cash it, and they'll give me the cash out of the register at the member services desk. Or one time the lady noticed a couple years ago that I didn't collect the money, and she was like, I was renewing my membership. She's like, you know, we owe you money, right? She's like, I'm not even gonna send you a check. I'm just gonna give you money out the cash register. And that's what she did.
I have the Citibank card and I have a Costco card, and I get 2 checks. My Citibank refund for this year was $100. And I was like, oh, can I just apply that to my credit card? And they're like, nope, you have to go to Costco and spend it. And then I was looking at a check that Costco sent me that says you have $45 to go spend at Costco. So I got it from both ends. And I just opened my Citibank in like 3 years ago. And I've had a Costco card for probably 15 years, but somewhere in the middle of it, I accidentally paid more. And that's when I got the business one. And so I just kept it. So Jasmine T,
I say
you
check it
might wanna
out. Yeah.
ask about it because I get from both ends. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jasmine, sounds like you should talk to Costco. You're like, hey, I found out that I could get more money back. All right. So that's really good feedback. When I talked about this valuing your product, as I said a couple of times, I assumed for Miko that you kind of want a standard salary, but you do need to think about how many days a week you plan to work, how many meals you do want to serve. Do you want to serve the max amount of meals? Do you want to serve different types of meals? How long does it take you to shop for and prepare those meals? And then how much do you need to charge so that you actually cover minimum wage, right? If I say I'm going to make $1,000 a week, that's super great. If it pays me, if I'm working 40 hours a week and I make $1,000 a week, that's what, $20 an hour? $25 an hour? I'm not good at math. I am good at math, just not on the fly. Yeah, $25 an hour. But we already know that you can't earn $1,000 a week probably doing this because, oops, sorry, I unshared. So you just need to think about that, okay? That is a piece that I just want to make sure that you're really thinking about whether or not you want what you want to earn and how much value is it to you. You know, I think, as I said, that salary piece is very flexible. So the thing I wanted to finish with was really about these SMART goals. I think everybody's probably heard about SMART goals, but if you haven't, the idea behind the SMART goal is that a goal without being smart is just a dream, right? It's not a piece that really gives us something that we can act on. So SMART goals are dreams that we have made specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. When we talk about specific, we're really clear about what we want to achieve. What is the specific thing that I want to do this week or next week? What is the number that I want to achieve? Do I need to check some box and say, I need to do this by this time, right? Why is it important to you? Who's going to be involved? Where will you do it? What resources are involved? Right? Measurable is also really important. Some of our goals will not be measurable. Some of our goals will just be yes or no. I need to submit this document to this place by Thursday. And you make it, and that's fine. That is not smart technically because the answer is not like, I'm going to submit 2 documents by whatever. No, it's just, I'm going to do this by Thursday, fine. All right. But if you do have goals that are longer term goals that you're not going to be able to achieve by Thursday, you want to be able to say, am I making progress towards this goal? And that's why it's nice if it's measurable, right? I worked in education before I worked here. And we talked about SMART goals a lot. And there's a lot of stuff in education that it's like really hard to manage, it's like measure in the interim. And it may be the same way for you, right? That you're like, how would I even measure that? And, you know, you don't want to just have a goal that's a goal because it's something that you can measure. But it is important that if you can measure it, that you are measuring it, just so that you have a way of tracking. Did I make progress this week? Am I on track to meet my goal? Okay. So you have increase or decrease are only useful with specific amounts. You really want to say how much, how many. You know, I want to sell 30 I want to sell 30 meals this week. I want to try 2 new recipes. Okay. Attainable, A has a lot of different meanings in this SMART goal framework. Attainable is one that I like a lot. It's not the only one you could use. Could be actionable. I guess it's something that depends on me, right? Your goal might be like get certified for having a MECO. Well, that's not only you, right? You need to wait on San Mateo County Health, Environmental Health to make the appointment to come visit your house. That's not something that you can control. So actionable can be something that you can actually act on. But also it's really important that it's attainable, right? You're not going to build a restaurant tomorrow. You're not going to develop your whole menu tomorrow. Like if you've been working on it for a few months, then yeah, maybe you can finalize it tomorrow. But you really need to make this as something that you can do and that is attainable within the time frame that you want to achieve it. Right? Relevant, right? We can make goals all day about like other things, but if it doesn't relevant to your business, then why make it, right? If it's not helping you advance in your business, why do it? So your goal might be write down all of the things that I need to buy between now and Friday. It is relevant. It is a thing, right? It is measurable. You don't know when you have achieved it, but it will help me improve and make progress towards my goal. And that's fine, right? Irrelevant goal might be, I don't know, what would be an irrelevant goal? I don't think I've ever set an irrelevant goal in my life. So that's a hard thing for me to think of, right? Because I've been working with this framework for like over a decade now. All right. And then the last one is time bound, right? Every goal needs a target date. You know, sometimes it feels overwhelming, but I think most people are very driven by having deadlines, even if it's a deadline that you are setting for yourself. There are ways to hold yourself accountable outside of your own self deadline, but it is really important to say, okay, what do I want to achieve in 6 months? What can I do in 6 weeks? What can I do today? And really break that down so that you can understand a little bit more, okay, about how you make progress towards your goal. All right. So if you're talking about setting goals for your business, I want us to take this away just because this is kind of a nice activity to do as our last activity together.
Can I say something, Amanda?
Mm-hmm.
For everyone in this class, Renaissance does a Start Smart class, and I'm actually taking it. I finished my last class last night at the same time I was taking this class. And what I didn't realize is that a lot of the answers in this class that we're taking right now answer the SMART breakdown that the instructor Beth does. And if you can get into that class, it is phenomenal. Because I'm sitting here watching all of the active roles and the slides and going, I needed all those answers last night when I was struggling to answer my homework. But it's interactive, it's really fun, and man, I learned a lot about where I was, which is why I might sound like I know a little more than other people here.
I'm super glad that you mentioned this because I actually derived this class using Beth's Start Smart framework because I think it is really important and I think it's really good. She's done a great job in explaining things and breaking it down. And I tried to take what I thought were the most relevant pieces for having a home kitchen business and taking it here. But if you're ready to like build out that idea more and you want to really go deep on some of these things, then yeah, I can absolutely recommend Start Smart. We have another class starting in a couple weeks actually.
And the best part is you already found the answers here to more than half the class, but you're just applying them there. That's all it is. It's really, I'm a little jealous that I wasn't paying that much more attention there. or I took that one first and then I did this one, but it's really, really helpful. So.
Interestingly, Emily went the opposite direction. So maybe she's got different feelings. Emily took my Start Smart class back in October, and then, like is doing this again. So I'm, maybe she's happy that she did the other one first and then this one.
Do you want me to comment?
Yeah,
are we ready?
sure.
Okay. I just don't know if we're running out of time. So I would say that, so I actually had Amanda both times, and I wasn't quite sure if I was going to do this class because I actually already started my cottage food business. But one thing is, I'm really glad that I did. And there's two reasons. I think one, Amanda is always sharing everything she's just learned. And so it's like all this extra information, and learning about chef is a big thing, and all these different pieces. And I think each class kind of has its own specifics because there's only so much you can put into each class. And I'm really, honestly, I'm so glad that I took it. She's just added so much more. And it's not to say that the first class wasn't. I thought that was a brilliant class. And, I think it just shows that every time you take a class, there's more stuff that comes out. And I think for me, it's all about, when you hear something for the first time, you think you got it all, but your brain can only take in so much, and only so much is so relevant. And so the second time around, even if I repeated the same class, I'm sure I would get stuff out of it. And I find that at Ren Center, people are taking the same class over and over again, like especially the pop-up classes. But then what's happening is that you have people who have done it before and are sharing out to the new people. And I think that's one of the best things about these Ren Center classes. So if you can, for the time, then join and then share your experiences. But it has been wonderful. Both this.
I'm glad that they're both relevant, right? I mean, like I was wondering, when I saw that you had joined this class, I was like, oh, Amanda, I hope she finds something newly useful, because it is the same, let's say, core, right? I try to make sure
there's a lot that's different. So I think it's sort of like this was the focus before, and then you sort of like kind of shifted the focus a little bit here on some things and a little bit here on others. So I will say that I've gotten a lot out of it, even though I took your Smart Start class before. So,
well, great.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. All right. So I invite everybody, we have a lot of cohorts starting. So the last thing that I said we'll do is setting a goal for your business, right? That doesn't mean you're starting tomorrow, right? As I said, it doesn't mean that you have to do it all right away. One of the goals that Beth always gives is like attend at least 2 local business events in my area for each month for 6 months and collect contact information from at least 3 individuals, right? When I think about my own Start Smart goals, my SMART goals, it is very much about outreach and how I can connect with business owners, right? So I want you to think about this. Her goal was this answers multiple W questions, right? Why am I doing it? To build out a stronger professional network, to collect contact information. What am I doing? Attending local business events. It's measurable. She's going to 2 events. She's collecting information from 3 individuals for 6 months. Is it possible? Absolutely, right? You got 30 days in a month. It's only 2 business events. Is it relevant? Does it help me grow my business? Yes, because it gives you a strong network. And then time bound, each month for 6 months, right? It doesn't do us a lot of service to set goals that are so far in the future that it doesn't matter whether you achieve them or make any progress on them. So I do very much value breaking down goals into sub goals if it helps you to give you some progress step by step. All right, so I want you to think about one goal that you would like to achieve, just a generic one, and then try to make it smart. All right, one thing that you'd like to do, it can be this week, it can be this month. We are now at the beginning of the month, so I can say this month without it being not achievable. All right, take a couple minutes and see what you can come up with. And I very much like Chef Steve's comment. Last tip, don't bite off more than you can chew. Pun not intended, but very welcome. I'm a punny person. Don't take on more than you may not be able to handle, right? And as you're setting your goals, you know, you can revise your goals. You're not like, who's the sculptor where you're writing it in stone. No, these can be changed. All right, we have 5 minutes left, so I think that we have time if anybody wants to share. What is one of your goals? And have you made it smart? That's the other question.
I'll go.
Okay.
Mine is to create a logo with my brother-in-law. And I'm gonna work on that for 2 weeks because I've had an idea and a template and a thing, and I just haven't talked to him about it. But I forget the acronym for SMART. But,
That's right. No, it's specific, right? So you've got, I want to create
yeah.
a logo
So it's
within
in the next 2 weeks. And then I have Isaac, who's my resource, and he has the skills. And I needed to put it on my wall in my little office that I've made in my living room because I need something to look at that says I'm gonna do this. Because every time I look at this, I'm like, it's not. And so, and I'm gonna give myself to the end of the month, I think. So
I think that's great, right? Remember that like logo design is iterative, right? So you might say to have, you know, 3 different logos to consider by the end of next week. I mean, I know that that's kind of forcing the measurability, but you may not decide on one thing by next week, right?
yeah, and I'm
Let's go back and
saying
forth with it.
decide or make
Okay.
it because I
Okay.
literally have the 4 already.
Okay.
I have the thing. So I'm literally at the end and I've just not called him to be like, I need you to help me draw this.
There you go. See, good. Okay, so that's a good one. It's a yes or no goal. It's not really measurable, but I'm also really appreciative that it's a smart goal. I mean, it is as smart as you can make that goal. So go for it.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? It's okay if not. All right. So keep working on this, right? I like, you know, we have a little bit of side chat in the chat because it was about the Start Smart experience. You know, if you do take Start Smart, it is with a group of people who have different businesses, right? What I do like about this class is that all of you have food experience or want to do something related with food. So the conversation can be a little bit more specialized. I loved learning about Costco's memberships. I think that was really interesting. And the people do have a lot of different conversations. So I appreciate you being here for the last 3 weeks. I will send you an evaluation. So if you have some thoughts on like any ways that we could make this better, if there's any information that you felt like you were missing at the end of this, then we can make sure that we have that in the next version. As I said, you are more than welcome to schedule a consultation, not necessarily with me, but like with Renaissance as a, let's say, a reward for taking this class. I'd love to have you you know, have some conversations about how to build your business idea further. And if you decide that like this isn't what you want to do, that's cool too, right? I will send this recording link. So after it renders and Zach uploads it, he always sends out, he sends me the link and then I'll send it out to you. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time and your contributions. My favorite part about teaching is that I also get to learn. So I hope that you have also learned a lot. And I appreciate it. So have a great day and good luck with your businesses.